Donald Trump made history today as the first sitting president to cross into North Korea. And it's kind of an amazing moment. You see Donald Trump with Kim Jong-un cross through the DMZ. They stand there for a little while. I think it was like 18 steps. And they walk back. This is an amazing sign of trust and peace. And hopefully this will be something that brings us into a complete and formal end of the Korean War. But of course, strangely, it seems like there are many people who are trying to insult or sabotage the president when it comes to his efforts on ending war in general. A lot of people have commented back in a couple of years ago when Trump fired missiles at Syria that in the media they were saying he was seemingly presidential now. I think there's one big issue that really shows you why the media is willing to smear someone, why they're willing to lie and cheat. And it's very obvious. It's war. Trump pulled back from Iran, and then he was attacked and insulted by many people on the left saying, good on Trump for, coming to his own senses. Whoa, hold on. Don't yell at him for doing the right thing. I think an element of why people are attacking Trump's efforts on ending war comes from they hate Trump so much, they have to target him no matter what. But I also believe there are people who just love war. And I've got some other articles pulled up I want to go through. Censorship targeting anti-war leftists, as well as Vox saying Tulsi Gabbard's anti-intervention stance is conservative. I kid you not. But we'll start with the big breaking news. Donald Trump making history. From CBS, Trump crosses into North Korea and meets with Kim Jong-un. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a monthly PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address. But of course, the best thing you can do, just share the video if you like it, because YouTube, as of recently, is no longer suggesting my videos, so I now rely on you to suggest them for me. CBS writes, President Trump on Sunday became the first sitting U.S. president to set foot on North Korean soil when he crossed into the demilitarized zone that divides the Korean peninsula to hold an impromptu and historic meeting with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. After the roughly 45-minute-long meeting, Mr. Trump told reporters he and Kim had agreed to restart negotiations in the hopes of brokering a deal to start the full denuclearization of the peninsula, a long-sought and elusive foreign policy goal of American administrations for decades. The president, who hailed his great relationship with the North Korean strongman, invited Kim to the White House to continue talks. Through an interpreter, Kim told Mr. Trump, "I never expected to meet you in this place." Could you imagine if Kim Jong-un came to the White House? I would not believe it. I do not believe it will happen. But that would be incredible. I want to make let's read on before I get into the personal stuff. I want to show you the stuff I got pulled up. The president, meanwhile, called the meeting a big moment after years of bitter hostility between the two countries that dates back to the Korean War. U.S. forces have been deployed in South Korea since the height of the civil war in the peninsula, which has technically not ended because no armistice was ever signed. Large-scale fighting ceased in the summer of 1953. In an earlier press conference, the South Korean President Moon Jae-in, Mr. Trump, said it was too soon to know whether there will be a third summit with Kim following the unsuccessful summit earlier this year in Vietnam. So there's a few things I want to point out. This is huge. I want to give credit to Donald Trump, and I want to get personal with it. As many of you know, it is a bit of a meme when I say I'm mixed race, but yes, I am part Korean. My grandparents were Korean. My great-grandparents actually come from two different cities, Seoul and as I understand it from what my mom's told me, Haeju. Haeju is in North Korea. I've been to Seoul. It was awesome. I got to go there and see, look, at some point, for some reason, someone in my family decided to leave this place and come to the United States. And I wonder why. I got to see Seoul, but I will not be able to see Haeju until this war is officially over and they open up the borders and normalize relations. Now, it's entirely possible I could, file paperwork and make a petition to try and go and visit my ancestral homeland. There's other places I've been to, such as the UK, Ireland, Germany, that's where my dad's side of the family comes from. Here's the thing. I've met my great-grandmother when I was very little. I've seen my dad's side of the family. I haven't seen my mom's. It would mean a lot to me to be able to go. Well, I should say I've been to Seoul, right? But I'm never going to meet those people in my family. They're long gone. But I would like to still go and explore the land from which my ancestors came. The only way that's going to happen is if someone can bring about peace. So you know what? As much as I personally don't like Donald Trump and his attitude and all this, he will have my unyielding support in trying to bring about peace in the peninsula. And that's why it's shocking to me to see so many people criticize him and attack him and try and sabotage this moment, because it affects me in a very personal way. When Trump was doing the first summits and the first meetings and all that stuff, I was so excited, and I'm still very excited. But I tweeted something out that it's actually terrifying to see that so many people hate Trump so much that they want to sabotage this. Maybe it's not fair to say they want to sabotage it, but they're willing to cause disruption and destruction and attack him over trying to bring about peace. The same is true for Iran when he backed out from bombing these targets because of the potential loss of life. People attacked him for it, and I'm like, hey man, let him do it. Let him back away, and I respect him for doing so. There's a lot of things I disagree with him on, domestic policy and otherwise. I have never been a diehard fan of Trump. I actually lean away from supporting him for the most part. Again, I'm moderate. I'm not an anti-Trump Trump derangement person. I'm gonna praise him when the economy does well, and I'm especially going to sit there and give an applause when he becomes the first president to cross into the DMZ. You realize that there have been situations in Korea where the soldiers, the South Korean soldiers, have to hold the arms of other soldiers because the North will try and pull them in. Trump walked into North Korea, exposing himself to great risk, and it was a good thing. And he came back out, and now we have a sign of trust. This is an excellent step. It's a historical moment. So why are there people who don't like it? Check this out. At the same time, the top U.S. trend is North Korea, and we are seeing a historical moment. Media outlets are reporting on Otto Warmbier. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing his name wrong. His story is tragic. North Korea is a relatively bad place. I'm trying to keep my language tempered because we have something good happening. We have a positive moment. But we know about the prison camps, the gulags, whatever you want to call it. We know that North Korea is extremely oppressive, but we have to do our best to bring about peace if we want to end it. So the same day Trump makes this move, this unprecedented historical move, we see the Washington Post running this story. They say, what happened to Otto Warmbier when the unthinkable is unknowable? President Trump said that if Otto had been taken out of North Korea sooner, the outcome would have been very different. But Jim Sciutto says Trump just cited return of U.S. hostages as a sign of goodwill from North Korea, seeming to forget Otto Warmbier was returned brain damaged and near death. Listen. Someone said, Trump endorsing American citizen Otto Warmbier's murderer again. Right, I get it. This is a top U.S. trend, Otto. These are the people bringing up this very tragic situation because they hate the president so much. Listen, I don't like what happened to Otto. It was a bad thing, but you have to understand there's tact, right? That Trump can't come out and just start attacking Kim Jong-un. He's trying to bring peace to the peninsula. There's such thing as diplomacy. And even though we know that the North Koreans have done bad things, let's try to let peace be in the forefront. Instead, what do we see? Look, since I've started filming this, since I've pulled this up, 411 new results. 411 new results of people bringing up this horrifying situation, and I feel that's going to be detrimental to what I really want to see here. You don't have to like Trump. You don't. And there are some good principled people pointing out, as long as we can bring peace to the peninsula. And that affects my family and me personally. And so I am personally slighted by these people who are disrupting a historic moment. Bring peace, please. Not only that, but I'm very, very anti-war. Let's move on. This is what Splinter News writes. Well, this happened. And this story basically frames the whole thing as if Trump is just trying to make a PR moment, saying it's a made-for-television moment, and that Trump is simply trying to give himself good press. That's why he's standing there. He's standing in North Korea, the president. Where's security? They're both in a very vulnerable position. They both walked back and forth, and this is tremendous. I long for the day when we can see true world peace. Isn't world peace something admirable? Can't you say that Trump can be a slimy, bad person who does bad things domestically in terms of like immigration policy, but his foreign policy in this regard is a good thing? Listen, I'm not saying his domestic policy is bad. I'm pointing out that it's fine to criticize him, and I've criticized him time and time again. But in this regard, can't you at least be like, we're going to give Trump this one? Okay, can we give Trump this one and just call a truce while he's standing there with Kim Jong-un? No, they're going to attack and they're going to belittle. But I'll tell you why I think this is. It's because there are people who really want war. And I mean that seriously. There are people who want nothing but war. For whatever reason, they want global conquest. I don't know. They attack Trump for pulling back his assault on Iran. They insult him now. And check this out. 2 years ago, the New Republic writes, let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Donald Trump is losing some of his biggest supporters over Syria. Tucker Carlson apparently, I don't know, how the statement was made, but advised Trump not to attack Iran because it would hurt his base. Whether or not that's the reason Trump did it, Trump did the right thing by not attacking Iran. Even though they attacked our drone first. Yes, I get it. But revenge begets revenge. Let's do our best to stay out of war. When Trump filed, it was 59 Tomahawk missiles at Syria. A lot of people in his base were outraged. Some of his most vocal supporters said, no, enough. So I think about the censorship. I think about who gets targeted in the censorship. And while we do see it's very often Trump's supporters and conservatives, I think this shows you why. They're anti-war for the most part. And when they speak up and speak out, they get censored. Just like the anti-media. What you're seeing here is what Project Veritas published in their Pinterest expose, proving that Pinterest had censored a conservative group, Live Action. But what I pointed out is that just above it is a group called the antimedia.com. Now, look, there's a lot of adult websites listed here in their adult blacklist. But why is Live Action, a conservative group, being censored? And also, why is the anti-media? Now, Veritas didn't bring up the anti-media when they were talking about the censorship. I did. My video was taken down. The anti-media is a staunchly anti-war publication. They're kind of like libertarian anti-war. They have some left-wing articles, but for the most part, they write stories in opposition to war. And they're also smeared and censored. Isn't that interesting? I have more, though. This was, I believe, last March. The Southern Poverty Law Center wrote an article smearing me and many other anti-war leftists. It was a really weird attempt at claiming that our positions on opposing war and intervention was somehow far right. They had to pull it and issue an apology. They apologized to Max Blumenthal, Ben Norton, me, Ronnie Akalik, Brian Becker. For the most part, all leftists, they even said that we were individuals on the left who share some policy views with respect to multipolarism that are also held by the far right. Of course, the far right is meaningless to these people, but you can see how this game is played. There are very few staunch anti-war leftists, true progressives, who are not authoritarian, who believe in freedom and oppose war. There's not that many, but they are targeted in the press as well. And here's my favorite so far. Vox calling Tulsi Gabbard's stance on war conservative. I'm not joking. They smear her. They target her. Why? Because she opposes war wholeheartedly and on principle. Even going to the point so far, like with such integrity, that Pat Buchanan of the American Conservative praised her. And many conservatives praised her, saying, you know what? Even though her domestic policy positions are relatively far left, they're actually like social democrats, not as far left as you can get. But her position on war is the one position that people should have. Stop sending our children, our soldiers, our troops into foreign wars for no reason. When it's not working, it's time to pull them out. And even conservatives can recognize that. And this to me shows, it may just be me, the one real issue that truly scares the establishment. Those who would oppose war. Trump's base, which many of them do, not all of them, and anti-war leftists, of which there are fewer. So Vox publishes this tweet. Tulsi Gabbard served as a combat medic in the Iraq War. She became a progressive star when she was first elected in the House in 2012, but has since faced criticism for her conservative stances on Islam and foreign wars. I kid you not. Conservative stance on war. What's her conservative stance? That the United States should not be interfering in foreign countries and starting regime change wars like we've been doing. A position that I would imagine most Americans would agree with. Barack Obama ran on pulling our troops out of the Middle East. Did he? No, some, but he did put more in there as well. And now Donald Trump, mostly John Bolton, is getting us dangerously close to war with Iran. However, to his credit, he pulled back a strike. He said no, the loss of life was too great and it was disproportionate. We've seen some people, like even Ben Shapiro, criticize Trump for this reason. He then meets with Kim Jong-un. And I think, you know what? Good thing. So naturally, you are going to see the establishment, neolib, whatever you want to call it, left, attacking Trump over this and supporting their weird narrative. I want to point out one thing here. Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, and I'll give him respect for saying this. He said, if Donald Trump keeps us out of war with Iran and doesn't end democracy before he leaves office, you didn't need that, then he will have been a better president than George W. Bush. And of course, people got mad at Cenk for saying this. But you know what? I don't care about your opinion on Bush. I appreciate Cenk Uygur coming out and saying if Trump can keep us out of war, he's better than someone else. Like it is. Look, Cenk doesn't like Trump. And if this is as close as he gets to supporting the president's anti-war efforts, then I'll give him respect. Respect to Cenk for saying this, because I don't expect him to ever come out and support the president on anything, even if it's a good thing. Like, I'll criticize Trump. I mostly criticize the war things he's done, the foreign policy. But if Trump does right by, anti-war measures and domestic policy, then he deserves the credit. Now I want to end with something that I find really interesting. Andrew Yang, he tweeted earlier today, anything that improves the political climate on the Korean Peninsula and engages North Korea on its nuclear program is a good thing. Bravo. And this is why I hope you understand I would support Andrew Yang or Tulsi Gabbard. Yang has policy positions I disagree with. I'm not a big fan of his UBI thing for the most part, but I appreciate the conversation. Tulsi Gabbard wants to increase the minimum wage to $15. I don't agree with that either. But she is staunchly anti-war, and that is her primary goal. And that's the conversation I think we need to be having, because it's fallen to the wayside as the culture war has elevated. But I see something interesting here. The ties between the culture war and the anti-war stuff, the censorship primarily affecting anti-war activists on the left and conservatives who support Trump, of which there are way more than the anti-war leftists. The left has been sort of, I guess, kind of like taken over by a culture war identitarian left that blindly just supports the war if it means they're attacking Trump. Whereas Trump's base are going to say, well, you know what? I'll support Trump in this endeavor. And the anti-war left who still hates Trump will still give him the praise when he does the right thing in terms of war. They'll still criticize him and his administration for other things they've done in terms of foreign policy, fine. But you can see someone like Andrew Yang speaking on principle, reaching across the aisle, speaking, to Ben Shapiro and Dave Rubin, and really trying to have an honest conversation and saying straight up something I completely agree with. Anything that improves the political climate is a good thing, and I will give Trump support in any effort to try and do the right thing. The left will criticize him. They'll say, oh, he's praising a murderer. Oh, he's running defense for them. Oh, it's just a PR stunt. That doesn't help. That just makes things worse. Someone responded saying, this ain't it. Someone said, I would agree, Andrew, but I can't help that's giving him credit for lessening the tensions that he himself has created. No, he didn't. He's the first president to cross into the DMZ. Historical. Amazing. Other presidents who tried de-escalating have never come this far. I think what we're seeing with Trump is initially he was very hard on North Korea, a big ask. Then he walks it back, and it gives him a chance to actually stand inside North Korea. Someone said, libs don't think so. They want war with North Korea so Trump doesn't succeed. I agree. I've seen a lot of this rhetoric. Look, if you search for the Otto Warmbier stuff, people are saying this. How dare Trump? He's not doing right. It's like, what do you want? War? Seriously, it's terrifying if you were to ask me. Someone responded, thanks for not bashing Trump just to bash him. This was a good thing. If it was Obama, the media and Dems would be drooling. This one says, disagree. Dictators torture, Andrew. Obama in 2007 said that if elected, he would be willing to meet with the leaders of North Korea and Iran, and the left praised him for it. Obama never followed through. Trump has met with Kim and is now even willing to meet with Iran's leaders, and the left criticize him for it. Yep. I read an article. I was reading this article from the American Conservative the other day, and I think this probably can explain to conservatives why I would support Tulsi Gabbard. Because I kind of am a one-issue voter. When it comes to domestic policy, I'm kind of like, I don't really know, but I can tell you this. The death penalty, I think, is wrong. and bombing, military-aged young men and causing what the CIA calls blowback, foreign wars, all of this stuff is just morally wrong. It cannot be justified. It can't. Killing people, ending life, philosophically and within my core and spiritually, I can never justify. It's just where my line is. When it comes to issues of domestic policy, well, we're talking about the opinions of which policy would be better, and we're talking about whether or not this would be better for America or this would be better for America. It's hard to know what's the right thing to do. But no one in America is arguing over policy of ending someone's life, except when it comes to war. So when these people are seemingly sabotaging Trump's effort at peace, I have to wonder where their moral compass is gone. I think you get it. Tulsi Gabbard, to me, has the main policy position that I think needs to be heard. No more foreign wars. Bring back our troops. That's a very America first position to hold. And it's interesting at how different her policies are from Trump's. But as long as both of them are going to be anti-war, well, then I'm going to give them support. Trump, I trust less, admittedly. He's done some stuff in foreign policy that I think is wrong and should be called out. Tulsi, a major, I believe, in the National Guard, speaking in opposition to war, will have my support. And it looks like she has conservatives who have her back as well. And you can read this from the American Conservative, and you'll kind of get it. Domestically, I disagree with a lot of her policies. I want to throw one more point here. It's kind of a deviation, but I think it's interesting. Andrew Yang is sort of noticing what's happening when you try to engage in honest and rational debate. First, we had this one where he says, hey, Trump's doing something good, hey, right? And people criticized him. He also tweeted, I've noticed that conservatives often follow liberals on Twitter, but the reverse does not seem to be true. And then people say, oh, because the far right, all this and that. It's like, you can really see that he made a point. If the liberals don't follow conservatives, they're not going to understand conservatives aren't all evil far right whatevers. They're just like of slightly different opinions. But Yang noticed. We also have this. He says, getting judged or attacked for things you said or did 20 years ago seems terrible. Guess it's a good thing I was a nobody 20 years ago. Heck, I was nobody 6 months ago. Once again, Yang noticing the hypocrisy that we primarily see in the culture war and cancel culture. So I think these are good examples of why, I'm a fan of Yang and Gabbard, though they're not perfect. The main point I want to have for this video as we wrap up is that Donald Trump has made history. He's taken, it was a great risk to himself to cross over onto the North Korean side, but I think he knew that this was the right thing to do, and it will help bring about peace and trust. The first steps, hopefully in a long journey towards 1,000-mile trip to peace, right? They say a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single footstep. Well, it looks like Trump made 18 footsteps. Hopefully, there will be more. And I really do hope that one day there will be complete peace on the peninsula, formal peace, open borders, normalized relations, and then I will get to visit Haeju, the town in which my, ancestors, I believe my great-grandfather had come from. It may have been my great-grandmother, but I believe it was, my mom says she thinks it was my great-grandfather. I'd love to see the city. I'd love to see, it's not very big, but I'd love to check it out. Seeing Seoul was awesome. I don't really know where my father's side came from in Europe, but I did go to Germany. I'm German, Irish, and Korean for the most part. But I've been to Dallas, where my dad's family actually came from in past generations, and I've met my great-grandmother on my dad's side. The same isn't true on my mother's side. So if Trump can bring about peace, it would affect me personally, and I look forward to seeing that. Thanks for hanging out. Stick around. More videos to come. You can follow me on Minds at Timcast. The next videos will be at youtube.com/TimcastNews starting at 6 p.m., and I will see you all then.